You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. And my guest this morning, Dr. Stephen Amoah, he's MP in Shaiso and Member Finance Committee in Parliament. Adam Mutawakilu is former MP for Damango and former ranking member for Mines and Energy. Joining us via Zoom, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, political scientist, democracy and development fellow, CDD Ghana. Mary Awalana Ada is programs manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative, and Suleimana Brahima is executive director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much, and good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Right,
Sorry.
right. Okay, so we are beginning the discussion from the latest ANAS expose, undercover work, which has led to the sacking of Charles Edu Boaheng. He titled it Galamsey Economy. So let's first of all ask to know what your preliminary views are about the developments, and then we'll begin to get into the details of the film and what it has caused. Let me begin with Dr. John Osai Kwapong. Good morning once again, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Samson. Good morning, everyone.
Great.
I think it is always unfortunate when public officials find themselves in these situations. It goes to show that we still have a long way, or at least there's still work to be done in this area of trying to really fight these issues of the use of alleged use of public office for private gain, matters of corruption, all of that. So it's rather unfortunate that a career in public service has to end that way. But I think for me, the one thing though that I think the president did was the swift response in terms of the alleged issue. The response was very swift, which I've always said that there are two fronts on which a government always has to fight issues of alleged corruption. One, you have to fight it on the legal front, where you have to allow due process, where you have to allow the person to have a right to defend him or herself, etc., etc. But I think you also fight corruption on the political front. And on the political front, it is the perceptions that it creates in the minds of the general public that you also have to be in tune with. And I think sometimes we tend to err more on the legal side and have this sort of unflinching fidelity to due process in the law. But the political side is where the appointing authority gets to respond swiftly, because again, these things is not just a drag on the accused official, but also on the perception on the entire government and the appointing authority. Right. So I appreciate the swiftness with which the president responded to these allegations.
Great. Now let me just take all of us through a very swift recap of what happened, all happening between morning and before midday on Monday. First, ANAS published in the Daily Guide newspaper, the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Kokubako's newspaper, that this is what had transpired. Charles Edu Boaheng had been filmed, and in the film, he was making a number of claims, including that Dr. Baumia, if he's giving some, 200,000 cedis $200,000 as appearance fee, then it will be possible to meet with him and to facilitate an investment for a certain sheikh. Then, in the course of the conversation, he himself had to be asked what was in it for him, how much he would take as his percentage. Then, after some hesitation, he suggested that he should be entitled to 50% cut on the $500 million, 50% cut on the $500 million, investment, quote unquote investment. He spoke about owning his own business and, wanting certain means and ways by which he could take his benefit. Now, immediately that was published, the vice president put up a tweet. And this is the tweet that the vice president put up. Let's quickly look at it. So the vice president said, "My attention has been drawn to a video by Anas Aramiyaw Anas as posted on his social media handle showing the Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Charles Edubuahing, apparently using my name inter alia to peddle influence and collect money from supposed investors. I would like to state that if what the minister is alleged to have said is accurately captured in the video, then his position as a Minister of State is untenable. He should be dismissed summarily and investigated. I am not aware of any such meeting held by Minister Edubuahing or a supposed appearance fee. My most cherished asset in life is my integrity, and I will not allow anyone to use my name to engage in corrupt activities." Right after this, then we got a publication from the presidency. The presidency was categorical in dismissing Mr. Edubuahing. I want to share that with you as well. This came just a few minutes after this. Then the presidency issued the notice of dismissal, and it's dated the 14th of November 2022. President Akufo-Addo terminates appointment of Charles Edubuahing. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has terminated the appointment of the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Charles Edubuahing, with immediate effect. After being made aware of the allegations leveled against the minister in the expose, Galamsey Economy, the President spoke to Mr. Edubuahing, after which he took the decision to terminate his appointment and also to refer the matter to the Special Prosecutor for further investigations. The President thanked Mr. Edubuahing for his strong services to his government since his appointment in 2017 and wished him well in his future endeavors. It was signed by Eugene Ahin, Director of Communications at the Presidency. Things were just running really rather fast. It didn't take long, and then we were alerted to this tweet by Charles Edubuahing. And it read, "It has come to my attention that a documentary to be aired by Tiger IPI and an article published in the Crusading Guide of Today seeks to accuse me of brokering deals for the Vice President of the Republic. This follows an attempt to entrap myself and other persons in 2018. We'll be talking about entrapment. Substantively, I have not been involved in this act of which I am being accused." Please note, it says substantively, I have not been involved in this act of which I am being accused. I do not, however, wish to be a distraction to the government and the Ministry of Finance at this crucial moment. Consequently, I have submitted my resignation to the President of the Republic. I will, however, look forward to a full investigation, which I hope will reveal that I have not committed this act. Take note of that. And then the very last important, activity following this, or communication or publication following this, was the OSP, Office of Special Prosecutor. And that release is headed Charles Edubuahing. It reads, by a letter dated 14 November 2022 and referenced OSP 305/1/22/1106, the Secretary to the President, upon the directions of the President, referred to the Office of the Special Prosecutor for further investigations, allegations of corruption leveled against Mr. Charles Edubuahing, former Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, contained in an investigative expose published by Tiger Eye PI and the investigative journalist Anas Aremiyao Anas, entitled Galamsey Economy. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has promptly commenced investigations into the actions of Mr. Charles Edubuahing and any other implicated person contained in the investigative expose Galamsey Economy, and is signed by the Special Prosecutor Kisie Jabing. It's dated 15th November 2022. So that's a day after the developments. Right. Okay. So earlier, did I say Edubuahing was demanding 50%? He demanded 20% of the shares, 20% cuts. I think I'm sure I said 20%. I said 50, eh? Okay, 20%. Thank you very much. Now, Mary, this is how things developed. Rather swift, rather fast. What do you say from where you sit at the Ghana Integrity Initiative?
Thank you very much, Samson. Let me say congratulations once again to Newsfile for continuing to be the flagship weekend show on TV and also on radio. I think you deserve it more than, and we pray that it continues to be so. And good morning to my other panelists as well.
Thank you. And here. Okay.
All right. So to continue, let me say that this was very swift, as Dr. Kwapon said. However, perhaps the issues that had happened, if you also listen to some of the genesis of these, it happened in 2018. And according to sources, most of the actors in this story knew about its occurrence. And I suspect perhaps they would have prepared for a good response. Listening to somebody on another channel previously, he indicated Anas had done something like that, which was intended to bring down government, and he decided to do a counter. And so most of these actors in this story, I believe, were prepared for it. However, we do not discount the fact that acting on same is the way to go. As Dr. Kwapon said, perceptions are fueled by our actions or lack of them. And in the fight against corruption, perceptions are fueled by the actions of the executive. And in this case, the president acted. So we cannot fault him for that. However, let me say that for me, the lesson in all of this is the fact that some people have come up for mention too many times. And so we believe that going forward, there must be some swift action. Again, not just referring to the special prosecutor to investigate the criminality around the issue of the person who is cited in this expose, but also the allegations surrounding the vice president. If you recollect, some time back, the analysis number 12 cited people in the Jubilee House for being complicit, where he mentions that the president is in his pocket, if I remember correctly. And then there were also allegations against some deputy chiefs of staff who are now ministers. So for me, I think that to fight corruption and also to show the way, particularly for the vice president, he should be interested in initiating some very thorough investigation at the presidency. This call should have followed what went to the special prosecutor, that there would be an internal investigation, very swift and expeditious, to determine culpability if it is of the high-ranking authorities who are taking appearance fees, or if it is subordinate officers using the processes and the gaps in the system to enrich themselves. Remember, in the case of the judiciary, we know the then Chief Justice acted swiftly, ensuring that they put in place measures after their investigations. So at the helm of the executive, we believe that that is the way to go to ensure that this does not recur, because recurrence of same then determines that the political economy of corruption in the presidency is fueled by certain factors. And if you want to see the president, you only need a certain amount to be able to get there, which I believe is not the case, as the vice president has come to deny. And his special assistant was on several radio stations also presenting a counter, which I believe for me is not enough. They should do something. And then let me conclude with what I saw. I fortunately went to view the expose. For me, in my mind, and I believe in the view of a lot of the patrons in the IACC that evening, we were expecting to see something related to Galamsey. When the intro particularly spoke to something around the president and the fight, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, then Amewu also came in. And so you were expecting to see more and more and more of what the Galamsey issues are, only to get what we got around somebody whose nickname also is Galamsey. The issues are relevant, but for me, I believe that some of us left the place asking, at the end of the first show, people were still seated because it's like we were expecting something more.
All right.
Which we did.
All right. So me, yeah, that's fine. These are supposed to be your preliminary comments. We will get to specific questions, including the quality of the film that people have asked issues about, whether or not the view is that this was a wrong, unethical approach to journalism, among other things. But of course, Suleimana, what will be your commentary on the manner in which things transpired from the morning of the publication to the evening of the film and the OSP's letter? Very briefly, we will get into the questionings, and I know where you stand, for example, that this is not the kind of journalism that should be endorsed.
Well, Samson, thank you very much.
Yeah.
As you've said, and as other colleagues have said, the actions were quite swift and rightly so on the part of the president. I think this was something that revealed to us the character of a person in leadership and how the person is likely to conduct himself when presented with a certain opportunity or when offered certain opportunities, whether the person will begin to talk and act in ways that are intended for self-benefit or would act in ways that are to the benefit of the nation to which he serves. So for me, essentially, it was a test of character, and we would get into the issues about, the matters and all of that, as you have alluded to. Then the question of influence peddling. Samson, I think that it is something that is really prevalent. I believe that you sitting in the studio moderating this program, important and big, high-profile program that has continued to win awards, I'm sure you cannot imagine how many people will be related to you, maybe just a day's acquaintance, and they try to use your name and the relationship to say, oh, my friend is Samson, I can do this, I can do that. So you can imagine what people would want to do if they are closer to a minister or the vice president or the president. And so for me, as I said, it's a test of character. But the fact that people would continue to bring up the name of the vice president or even the president as a way of peddling, influence is for me not something that is surprising. Of course, the actions, as have been said, were quite swift. And, we all know the position of Mr. Dubois even before this incident, where a certain group of parliamentarians had said, look, together with the Minister for Information, they must go. So already his position was not too stable, even though the president had also tried to intervene. So certainly this then added to the pressure for him to go. And I was not surprised that the president took that quick action. Plus, whether or not the president was aware or had been shown the documentary in the first place is another matter, because in number 12, if you recall, it was made clear that before even the airing, the documentary had been shown to the president. And so for me, these will be my initial comments.
Right.
Yes, it was great. And
Okay.
the question of influence peddling using the vice president's name is for me not surprising.
Okay, thank you. Now, Honorable Mutakilu, what do you also have to say? This is not the first time Anas is going undercover and bringing us, work that has immediate, impact, and people suffer for indiscretion, some will say for who they really are, that they are corrupt. In 2015, when he did his expose on the judiciary, it took a 2-year, activity to cover all of that. In the end, we had 34 judges and magistrates that were caught on camera secretly asking for bribes. Some say some of them, they were tempted with the bribes. They didn't ask for it. Well, that's the jury is out there. Then the Chief Justice set up the inquiry. In the end, we had over 30 judges and over 100 judicial staff that were found to have breached their own, code of ethics, engaged in bribery, corruption, and they were sacked. How did you feel about this?
Yeah, I got quite worried that before I say anything, I would like to say good morning to our cherished viewers, and more especially the good people of Damongo constituency and my colleagues. It's been a while I've been on screen. You see, over the period, Anas has done a good job. He has put people on their toes, and in one of the presidential debates, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo said he will adopt the Anas principle. Unfortunately, since he became the president, his own presidency has been exposed. This is about the third time.
Your commentary now is about what has happened within the last 2 days since this was released.
I just want to narrow it quickly.
You are going into areas that we will have to come to.
That's why I'm giving a brief.
All right.
The number 12, then another one involving Charles Bisu, that's the Galamsey one, and then this one that has just come out. So that means at the office of the president, Anas has captured issues of corruption related or alleged corruption 3 times, and that is unprecedented. However, the swift response to this one has called into question, is it because it involves the vice president? Because that swift response did not happen to the first 2. But this one was swift. Is it because it involves the vice president? That brings the question. 2, the public should not just assume that Honorable Adu Buahin, former Minister of State in charge of Finance at the office of the president, was just saying those things in a bid to extort money. I think that we should allow the special prosecutor to do an in-depth investigation before we start drawing conclusions like Because
have you seen the video, or at least that portion where Charles Edubuahin had to bring in the name of the vice president? Have you seen that portion?
yes,
You have?
yes. And
Okay. So I was saying this was preliminary commentary, but seeing it, would you like to say that he was sort of dictated to make those suggestions, or he did them on his own?
for me,
He was led into them, or he did them on his own?
you see, everybody has a limit within which people want to push you beyond. You have to be yourself. Anybody has a boundary. If you come to me to discuss with me and you start talking about bribe, I should know that is a red line as a person. I should know that is a red line. And that is what, as public officials, we must have. But if you making a promise to me or saying that, oh, I need this, how do you guide me? What do I give to A? And I'm willing to give information and to guide you, then it has been something I've done over time. To the point of going to the vice president family and what should happen, it's a cause for worry. And that is why I say the office of the special prosecutor.
Does it matter what he says about the integrity of the vice president before he begins to say, well, I think if you got him this as a token to be fine, an appreciation of sort?
You see, when I talk about your integrity, and the next moment I'm telling you that, okay, if we do this, then there is no integrity. The first thing you must realize, I've watched a lot of criminal activity. When I say, for me, nobody can bribe me, please, if you push the person ahead, you know the true value of that person. So, by first of all making that statement does not mean that the integrity of the vice president is intact. If it was intact, he would have just gone ahead and said that this thing we cannot deal with in terms of bribery or getting anything for the vice president. He will not take it. He's a man of integrity. So when it comes to the vice president, please, let's forget of it. That's what I expected him to say. If he's sure that the integrity of the vice president
we'll spend some time on that aspect. But yes, Steve, the developments, and some said, but why the president? Many people have been calling for Ken and Edubuahin to go. He doesn't do anything. He just waits to see a publication by Anas. He doesn't even wait to see the video because he doesn't have the opportunity of seeing it. You know, previously, as we were made to understand, you know, he had the opportunity of seeing something, but this time, that opportunity was not there. Some of us as journalists who also had the privilege that sometimes when Anas is going to premiere something, he would give us some sneak peek into what was going on. We all didn't have the opportunity this time. And so even the title, Galamsey Economy, misled all of us until getting to the program itself, that we began to know that was just, you know, sort of to try and mislead, take away attention, and stop people from what they normally do. When he begins to tell people about what he's going to do, then they start running to the court to get an injunction to stop him. So this was a clever way to keep them at bay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samson. My regards to our cherished viewers this very morning and the entire Ghanaian community. And I would like to always emphasize the point that we in government, as well as all other meaning Ghanaians, appreciate the fact that there's hardship, I mean, globally and nationally, and that we are victims of what's happening today, and that we exercise high level of empathy. I mean, so Ghanaians should understand, nobody abuses the fact that there's hardship. I just want to tell them this. And Ghanaians should be calm, and I'm assuring them things will be all right because steps are being taken. Coming to this issue, I'm a little bit confused, and I don't want to normally go into jurisdictions that I really don't have authority when it comes to understanding what is actually going on. But I would like to emphasize 3 key things and then 3 actors that I think I'll be in a position to comment on their actions and inactions so that it will give a certain picture for Ghanaians to judge themselves. And we should also forget about the fact that in situations such as this, our brothers from the NDC would like to capitalize on that. And these MPP would have done probably the same. I mean, they all want political capital. So they will try to say a whole lot of issues. I think the president has rather demonstrated a leader position and style that he has to be recommended. I'm not saying he's perfect. Let's be very honest. He took very swift decision, made very swift decision to let everybody understand that he really believes in open culture system when it comes to fighting corruption, which has been a canker, not only today, not even 4 years ago, right from Nkrumah time up to now. There are people who hold certain positions with respect to what Nkrumah that they thought constituted corruption. I'm not ready to go into this. Through former President Kufuor, late Professor Mills, former President Mahama, and even today Nana. So corruption has been an issue. But then, if my brother says that expose on 3 issues has been unprecedented, I don't want to go in this area because let us try to reduce politics. I would have then said that the unprecedented corruption issue we can talk of is where courts of competent jurisdiction has jailed NDC officials. All the 2 terms they had, 1 and 2. Perception will be there, but we are talking about court of competent jurisdiction. So I don't want to go in. I think the president has taken the right steps. And I'm also saying that as a special prosecutor should accordingly be given the discretion, the exclusive right, his prerogative to really exercise his mandate in investigating the case to ensure that Ghanaians get what they are expecting in a true, fair manner, that all stakeholders will not be treated in a way that they don't deserve. And I think the special prosecutor has what it takes. I like the way he is, and I think he can do that. So we should be patient. Adubuahin, former Minister of State, Honorable Adubuahin, to me, he has not spoken. Not that I know. So it's just one-sided story now. We cannot draw any constructive inferences and say that he's wrong or right. Something under investigation will be very difficult for anyone to jump the gun. But of course, the president trying to let Ghanaians understand the fact that there's transparency.
You read the post that he put up.
I haven't read it. He defended it.
We read it to you.
You mean President of Vice?
No, Charles Adubuahin, where he says he's
because
waiting,
I left here. You remember?
He was waiting for the process and will cooperate with it, sort of, to see what goes on. He says he was entrapped, and that substantively he's not guilty of what he's being accused of.
Okay, so that is his side. So now his side, sorry, when you were saying that, I had left. So I just came in. So his side against the side of those who actually conducted the investigation. So we need to wait for the conclusion that we'll get from the special prosecutor. Then we can, when it comes to the vice president, I am surprised. Probably in the future I can't talk about it. And I can't say the vice president is perfect. I cannot say that he's a human being. Sometimes, even the corruption issues, you may be jailed out of corruption, not because you're corrupt. You can be seen to be guilty of corruption out of sheer errors. Let's all be honest. And probably it goes be out of deliberate effort to be in corruption. I always say about this great man, is it Chachu? He was jailed, do you remember? No, was it Chechu or the Ahoys? One of them, this cocoa issue of non-compliance. I had a view that we all realized that he embezzled the fund. But when it comes to audit work, compliance and other things can also put you into trouble. The point I'm trying to make is that those who are very close to the vice president, you can say anything about him, but not corruption. That one is a fact. Going forward, he's a human being, but the vice president is so firm and he was so emphatic, boldly. If he had even known anything about it, at least he couldn't have come that bold because he was putting himself in danger. Adubuahin would have come back and say, hey, he's a vice president, it's not only me. So right. I think if you look at all the stakeholders involved, the president the vice president, their positions are giving us hope going forward into this issue.
Right.
And then Adu Buahin has also given his side, contrary to what happened. What I understand that the woman, the great woman spoke about, and I'm sure my brother also said something which I agree. Let us also be very careful. Sometimes when you are being trapped, right from the onset of money issues and perceived corruption issue and bribery, you should be very careful what you say. It could happen to me, anybody at all, not only Adu Buahin. So it's a sign. Let us know when you are appointed, something, about 90% of people who have been appointed, whether in this MP, they will tell you, your first 3 months, if you don't take, you'll be in the same trouble. People will come to you with different offers, sometimes, demonstrating with good intentions. But if you don't manage your utterances well, if you don't manage your positions well, you'll be actually entangled or trapped,
right.
And you'll be in this situation. But for now,
let me go back.
For
let
now,
me go back
let's
begin
take
again.
our time to see how things unfold.
Let me go
by the
again
special prosecutor.
to